BRB. Okay, I've been concentrating. I'm really hungry. It's enough. Mm. I read Mia Farrow's book about various things. I forget the name of it, but she seemed honest and straightforward and everything. And I couldn't watch any Woody Allen movies after that. I wasn't a big fan, but there may have been one I wanted to watch, but I couldn't. The same with Roman Polanski. Mia. My favorite people to follow on Twitter were, well, Rosanna Arquette was my favorite, then Mia Farrow, then Patricia Arquette. Favorite celebrity. I forgot something about that site. Oh, I found a way to contact Mia Farrow by email, I guess. She had been posting a lot about Kissinger, right? Mm. She had been posting a lot about Alan Dershowitz, you know, that you know, that she didn't like him and what he was being accused of having to do with Epstein and stuff. I guess. So when I watched him in an interview and saw Kissinger in his face, I contacted Mia Farrow. I'm not sure through which. She had a website on fighting poverty in one of the African or Middle Eastern nations, a third world nation. I may have found contact information for her by that, from that. But I thought she would want to know. I don't know. So I emailed her, and I sent her a link to the Facebook post where I wrote about seeing Kira Sedgwick and Julia Roberts' face in the movie with Dennis Quaid when he was married to Julia Roberts and he had cheated on her and she was divorcing him and stuff. I'm not sure what role Kira Sedgwick played, but at one point in the movie I saw Kira Sedgwick in Julia Roberts' face on film, on the TV, because I watched it on the TV a long time ago. So when I saw Kissinger and Alan Dershowitz's face, it was the second time I'd ever seen that phenomenon. And I wrote to Mia Farrow about it. And I never heard back from her. I just figured it's one of those things that other people would also see. And that it wouldn't be such a offbeat phenomenon. I posted about it to Facebook. I didn't post about Kira Sedgwick and Julia Roberts' face until I saw Kissinger, I think. And then since I'd witnessed that phenomenon twice, I posted one up. So. But I did like Mia Farrow's book. I really did. The Between the Lines were very good. And it was a little more serious, creepy, I guess, what Woody Allen did to their child. It's kind of come out in public, maybe 5-10 years ago, as kind of, almost minor, but it was kind of serious. It was a real creep. Very creepy. I remember, I think. Roman Polanski is not allowed to enter the United States anymore. Because of his sexual activity with a minor or minors. Sexual crimes against minors. God says these things matter. Things like Hugh Grant bitching out a crew member and stuff like that. I draw the line at torturing children. I mean, that's my line, but I don't really judge if people are good or bad. They kind of torture children or they don't. That's my line. That's where I draw the line. God says where there's smoke, there's fire. And if a man is cheating on his wife, there's fire. And that's smoke and there's fire and all this other stuff. I know. What was I talking about? Right. People loved Bobby Kennedy. A real personal love, like as if he were their personal friend. And that's a secondary. He was politically, caring politically in his political philosophies and stuff, and wanting to end the war, the Vietnam War and stuff. But the personal things, I read this book, and I think it was a tribute to Robert F. Kennedy. And it was written in California, in maybe Northern California or something like that. People who had been involved in a campaign with him in there, somewhere in California, I think. And the contributors just, they were a small group of people, but it was so poignant. It really moved me to read that stuff. I just can't see that. The secondaries, I can't see that he could be evil. I wrote to Ted Kennedy once because I read either in a position paper on his website or in a news article that he didn't believe we should be exploring space right now because we have so much poverty on the Earth. And I agreed with him. So I wrote to his office and I said, I just want to say that I agree with you that we shouldn't be exploring space right now. We should be, taking care of hungry people. And I got a letter back from his office that said, we respectfully disagree with you. We think exploring space right now is a bad idea because, there's there are so many things so many people need in the United States or the world or something. I said, wait a minute, I wrote to you and agreed with you. So I called his Senate office and spoke with, they have aides or assistants or whatever, maybe volunteers, probably not volunteers, that answer calls and stuff. And I just said, I had agreed with Senator Kennedy, and I wrote to him that I had agreed. And I got a letter saying that he respectfully disagrees with me, as if I hadn't agreed. And so they corrected it and sent me another letter. They're pretty much form letters, and they stamp them, He probably has some people who have authorized stamps for the signature and stuff. I don't think he addresses any of the letters directly. That's what his assistants are for. So, let's look at that. So somebody got my form letter wrong. My letter wrong and sent me the wrong form letter. So that's what I think. But Edward Kennedy, off and on, because, I watch news and stuff, but whenever I would see Kennedy in a Senate setting or making a statement, or I very rarely, if ever, saw a speech of his on C-SPAN. I very rarely saw him, if ever, saw him speaking to the Senate or anything. But he was my guide for political things, He was against most favored nation trade status for China. And I just knew that China was, a repressive society, and that he had his reasons or whatever. The only thing I knew that was circulating in the United States news was Tiananmen Square. Some protesters were killed, and yeah, that's all bad and stuff, but it doesn't even begin to represent the oppressive, repressive government of China that I've learned about during this process. And I didn't think Tiananmen Square was a big deal for the United States to condemn them for, and I doubt his being against most favored nation trade status for China wasn't about just Tiananmen Square or anything, or even at all about it. It was probably economic and moral and economic, or economically moral. But, I didn't think the United States had any standing to criticize China for Tiananmen Square. Because we do horrible things to children in this country. We had no right to criticize anybody about anything. I cried, I believe, when Hillary lost the election in 2016. I remember sitting on the porch just asking God why. I was scared about Trump. I really was. I thought the world would end. And I cried. But after quite a while, I realized, he trashed the reputation of the United States so much. And he disbanded so much of the complexity in the executive branch, I guess. I thought him lowering the status of the United States in the eyes of the world was a good thing, because the United States definitely deserved it. So, it wasn't a good thing to me the night of the election, or the night of the vote count was in, but it turned out for the best, I think, because the United States is squat shit. Probably in the eyes of the world, probably not in the eyes of a lot of people, even in the United States. I'm still a little confused about the Clintons. Hillary's the one that got children under 7 to have health care, free health care. I didn't even know about that. My son had already been more grown than that when it must have happened. And, she sat through that, Benghazi interrogation for hours. And she held up. She made them all look foolish. They were so fucking mean. Especially Troy Gowdy. What a mean little fucker. And they were completely clean on Whitewater. And that was Mellon Scaife. So, I don't know. I have been really up and down in this, being convincingly convinced of one thing and then convincingly convinced of the opposite. I just don't even like to say anything anymore. And Barack Obama has been given and taken away several times too. I only have one criticism of Barack Obama. Only one. I think he worked hard. I think he did a lot. I don't remember any policies that I disagreed with. I would like to see... No, I'm not going to change the subject. He was so straight and narrow and clean that he didn't even get slander. He didn't leave any room for that. I mean, Trump did it, but he's not a credible source. My only one criticism is he was so careful. And I don't blame him, because I've lived my life very carefully too, because I am a target. I don't break the law when I know about the law, except when I think the law of the universe, like on marijuana, overrides the law of the United States or the state of Wisconsin. So we didn't really get to know Barack Obama as a person. He didn't really have room in my thinking to reveal himself as a person. You know, like sensitivities or vulnerabilities or anything like that. And I think that's what we love in people. You know, Bobby Kennedy was human, you know. He had a terrible time after John was assassinated. And he just took as long as he wanted to sit. I don't think he was doing anything. I don't think he was in the Senate or Attorney General or anything. He just stayed at home or something and just thought things through. Excuse me. I've never heard of anyone doing that before. Bobby Kennedy has been criticized here by Satanists for not saying the right things or not being genuine enough when he gave a speech after Martin Luther King's assassination in some big city to a large crowd, you know, on a podium in the street, a built up podium in the street, to a large crowd of black people. But I thought, you know, that takes balls, it really does. They hadn't known. He broke the news to them. I think he broke the news to many of them hadn't known. And he was just saying it's not a time for violence, it's not a time for protest, and all that. And they put the information on the internet about what happened after he was shot in the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, I guess, because it was California. He had just got enough votes to win the nomination, the Democratic nomination. And he was shot in the kitchen, walking through the kitchen. But he was transported back to either Washington, D.C. or Hyannisport or wherever they took his body by train. And people lined up the train route, like in every state from California to wherever he ended up, like in D.C. or something. People lined up and they were poor people, regular people, white people, black people. You know, they would be on the inside of the fence where the train tracks were, or hanging on the fence from their backyards or something. But that was the tribute he got. It's just people waving goodbye to the train. I mean, he broke hearts. People's hearts were broken, and I think their spirits were broken too. And then Nixon was president and escalated the war and all that stuff. And I've always had a special something about the Vietnam War. It's always eating at me. And I know consciously half the time, no, 5 minutes out of every 12-hour period, that they are trying to take away from me everything I loved on the earth. The movies I love, the actors I love, stuff like that. But when they come at me, they mush in my brain. They mush my brain. And I can't think clearly. Keep in mind the paradigm is to take away whatever I valued in my life from me. John Kennedy changed the world. And I don't know if they said it in the movie 13 Days. I don't think it was one of my original thoughts. I'm not sure, but he may have survived as long as he did and become president, and it was a lot of hard work too. Even Rose worked hard. He may have become president and lived as long as he did as president, because he made some powerful enemies to save us from being nuked by the Russian missiles in Cuba. You know, that may have been, well, his ultimate main purpose in his life, is that he and his administration, his friends, his close friends, got us, whittled us out of being nuked by Russia, by Cuba, Russian missiles in Cuba. It is, for me, the stuff about Harry, who I thought was my father, but he actually isn't, was important because it brought evidence that a man I knew as a Satanist was involved in covert ops and the development of the magic bullet theory. You know, but my heart, now they're trying to make me cry. I wouldn't cry about this. You know, my heart is with the good people like Kennedy's and stuff. That's not meaning okay. It is honestly. I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in me until I tested it out. Because one, I'm white. Another, how can someone whose father was involved in maybe or probably the assassination, but definitely the investigation of the Kennedy assassination, you know, how could I rat him out and love the Kennedys? You know, that's suspicious. It's like a movie or something. One of my favorite Emerson quotes, and I use it as a quote in my email for a while. We know the truth when we see it, just as we know we are awake when we are awake. And I thought, you know, maybe people do see something besides the planet. You know, God has me stuck. If the world has changed, I haven't been able to see it. He's given me little hints and stuff. And that's it. Like, meshing. People being meshed. Isn't gonna happen, you know, on a large scale now. This is the most horrible fucking thing. And how can a person who's meshed know they're meshed, you know? They grew up with parents who they thought were parents, but were Satanists and assigned by the government and shit. I wondered about, you know, 911, one of the many things it brought was this TSA, you know, all these security checkpoints and the long walk, metal detectors where they x-ray your body and stuff. I haven't flown since 9/11. I decided I wouldn't because I had a strong reaction to police state tactics of American Airlines back in 96 or 97. You know. Anyway, I did a search for a while on are people are going through airport security points, you know, checkpoints. Are they being meshed? You know, it was that the purpose of one of the side effects of 911 is to set up all these metal detectors and mash people. I did a search on complaints about headaches, nausea, this and that, and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything about passengers complaining about feeling sick after they walked through the metal detectors. But, if their purpose was to control the society electronically, or electrically, or, implant radio receivers in prisoners' ears, in prison and stuff, they may have been planning to mesh people on a large scale. I couldn't find any complaints about feeling sick after people walking through. I did the search terms I could think of and stuff. So if mesh has been stopped, then I get to set fire to the Pentagon myself. But they have changed so much. They changed my best books. Blank Check, Pentagon's Black Budget, and On the Trail of the Assassins. Even High Treason by Harrison Edward Livingston, the book that really changed me, because it was the truth about the Kennedy assassination, and it was treason. I'm gonna stop recording and uploading.